Greetings to Augies worldwide. Turn that light on, see if that helps a little bit. And I think it does, and we'll get started. My name is Dave Kassler. I'm amateur radio call sign KE0OG, and welcome to the Thursday evening in the United States. It's actually 0100 UTC on Friday. So welcome to this issue of our live stream. I've been reading the very active chat field that has been down there. Looks like lots of things are going on. I have two items of news that are very important. One is important to me, and one is important to a lot of other people. The one that is important to me is that today I passed my written examination for my sport pilot's license. Drove up to Grand Junction, 2-hour drive for a half-hour test, and then a 2-hour drive back. So time well spent, I guess. The other is, lo and behold, look what finally arrived. This is the Extra Class License Manual, edition 12, good for July 1st, 2020 through June 30th, 2024. And now that we have the book, and this is the thick book, it's the very thick book, my assistant and I will be working post-haste to start updating the various extra videos and getting them out. I have heard that there are a few changes, so we'll see. We'll see what happens with that. I'll take a look at that. So, yes, what's an Augie? Those who have subscribed to the OG channel, the KE0OG channel, are Augies, and we have some 70,000 of them. Just out of curiosity, how many do we have? We'll go to the studio. And 70,831. We've gained 1,328 in the last 20 days, and so welcome all of you to the channel. I have available for you the lessons that go with the ARRL manuals. And they're not just at the chapter level, they're at the section level. So for each numbered section like this, 4.3 Principles of Circuits, there will be a video just for that section. I have them for Technician, General, and Extra. And then there are a bunch of videos called Ask Dave, which are available if you go to dkassler.com/previous. You'll find those. And in addition to that, we've got all of these live streams. I've been adding extra live streams since the coronavirus pandemic began, so we can all have a little something amateur radio related to do. So, yeah, thank you. Yes, I'm very excited about that. Did I have any butterflies? Surprisingly not. I thought I was pretty well prepared. Yeah, I was thinking about that. I have not tested in a long time, and I was thinking about the parallels between, studying to test for an FAA exam and studying to test for an amateur exam. I found the technical material very, very interesting. I also found it necessary to practice tests. There's a company called King Schools. They're hams too, by the way. They have practice exams that you can do, and I did quite a number of those till I kind of, got the feel of how those things work. I also have this book right here, is the Glen Sport Pilot, and this is all the known questions together with the answers. And so I went up there today. It's a testing center. It's up in Grand Junction. They test pretty much for anything. You go in, tell them what you want to test for, and they have all the materials there, and they get you started. The test itself is actually administered via computer, and for the little maps and everything that we have to deal with, they had a little booklet they gave to me and told me not to write on. So that's what happened, I took the test, and they gave me my results just as soon as I walked out of the actual testing room. Gave me my results, and I was on my way. So it was very good. I celebrated with an apple turnover at Arby's and some milk. Wow. So now let's see. What's with the thumbs? No, somebody does that. Yeah. Thank you very much, Mr. G. I appreciate that. And Pedro Marias sends a super chat. Super chat is a way that you can provide funding for this channel. If you look below where you type in there, there's an emoji where you can put emojis in, and then next to it is sort of a rectangle with a $sign in it, and that allows you to provide funding. Did you get the buddy pole to work on 40 with a reasonable SWR? I haven't played with it that much, to tell you the truth. I got so many antennas. It's out in the trailer. I did get it to work on 20 without an issue. Okay. Online practice tests are quite a resource. Yes, Mr. G, thank you very much for your super chat. We are congratulating Dave on passing his sport pilot written exam. And I did that this morning. And, well, you can see right there what I missed. I missed 4 questions out of 40. They do 40 instead of 35. And there's only, it's multiple choice, but there's only 3 possible answers per question instead of 4 like there are on the amateur exam. And there are none of the aboves, or all of the aboves. They don't have any of those on there. Okay. Very good. Now, I want to point out these people here. Had quite a few people send in questions that got garbled. And here's what's going on. I think I'm pretty sure of what's going on. What's going on is that people are not filling out all the required fields. And if you don't fill out all the required fields, the thing doesn't know what to do. Daniel Jenkins, Renee Totaro, Sean Sunderman, Kevin, and Russell B. If you would please resend your question, remember to fill in all of the blanks on the little form. The email is required in case I need to or wish to get in touch with you. So please do that. I have a metal roof, but it's rubber coated. So can I run my wire dipole over it, and how high? Well, the metal is metal, whether it's covered with plastic or not, or rubber. It's going to act as metal, so it'll act kind of as a ground plane. So please put your antenna up high, as high above that as you can get, 10 or 20 feet, something like that. And let's see, I saw Ishmael in here earlier. Oh, did I lose the connection again? It looked like I must have lost the connection. I'm getting all greens here. It says excellent connection on YouTube. So we'll keep trying. Yeah, Top Gun, I'm sure. Small town named Truman. It's 15 miles south of Jonesboro. That's a long ways away in Arkansas. Having trouble with my IC7300. 20-meter dipole is cut exactly, but the rig gives me a 1-to-3. Well, it should be 3-to-1. Well, it's only 5 feet off the ground. There's your problem. That will give you a low SWR. You could still tune for that, but you will have to tune the antenna some to operate that close to ground. Did I ever get the issue with hamradioanswers@gmail.com fixed up? I got a request via that today. I've not been pushing that address anymore. I've been reading some things where Windows is interfering with Gmail, the new Windows, and I just got my new Windows here, so they keep updating Windows, and I understand they're going to take the control panel away. For what reasons, I don't know, because the modern substitutes for the control panel simply do not have all of the functionality of the control panel. Okay, was given a yeasu FT7200, but no manual. You should be able to find that manual on the internet. If it's still listed on the yeasu website, they'll have it there. Otherwise, you should be able to find it on the internet. Need to set up for 440 PL tone. 440 sounds a little high for a PL tone. Unless you're saying for 440 megahertz, which is the 70 centimeter band. I don't think PL tones go up that high. Okay. And sorry to hear that Earthquake Kelly is having trouble with his 7300 too. Do find out more about that and send me a note, and we'll take a look at it. Okay, so the league is back to sending out the license manuals, and so I'll be starting to work very hard on the updated extra manuals. If you want to take a look at those videos, go ahead and do that. I know that they're near an engineering level, not quite engineering, but pretty close. There are 40 some odd of them, and if I do one a day, that'd be 40 days before I do another Ask Dave video, so I'm going to have to intermix them a little bit. And I think we'll keep doing both Thursday and Saturday live streams for the time being. Okay, let's see. 440.575, okay, that is a frequency that's in the 70 centimeter band, and the 123.1 is one of the standard PL codes, yes. Okay. This first question is from Doug, KC2MJB. He says, I watched on one of your videos on your antennas at your place, you mentioned using chain link fence top rail for poles, putting two together to make nice 20-foot poles or masts. Is there a way you couple them together? Actually, they couple themselves. Let me just show you on the overhead how that works. Okay. The poles are shaped like this. They've got a narrower section going up for several inches, like that. Okay, so the next pole, and I'll draw that in a different color. The next pole comes down over the top of this, and it's 5 to 6 inches, so that's reasonably strong, and if you guy at the top, you're probably okay. Now, I did have one of these bent. I think a deer hit it and bent it kind of like this. It didn't come down. I think that was because a deer hit it. Wind wouldn't do that. Okay, so I hope that answers your question there. Let's see. Yeah. Okay. Dipoles, don't they have that radio called them? It's good to download all the radio manuals. Yeah. Love the music room. Okay. This next one is from Michael, K5MSK. Regarding your recent uploaded video about the QRP-LABS station GPS clock update, I let it show my latitude and longitude. Yes, it would be very easy to figure out where I live. I think that I do use a P.O. box because we've always used a P.O. box out here. One of the reasons I do it is I get many of my medications by mail. And so rather than sitting in the hot mail box down by the highway a mile away, they can sit in the air-conditioned post office box and not get cooked. And so I just kind of use that for everything. I looked at that and I thought I have shown that before and given enough clues that if somebody wanted to find me, they could. I would hope that if somebody wants to see me, they would write me an email first. I have met some Augies in person. I've become good friends with a couple. Sean McGrath is the Augie who gave me ground school for my sport pilot license, and I owe him a huge vote of thanks for doing that. And Brad Rich has also become a good friend. He came up and helped me with an antenna some time ago. Yeah, hello, Rick. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Okay. This is from Richard Paige N0AJM, who's having a problem. His antennas are in the attic and he's experiencing RFI with his smoke alarms. Help. Richard, I don't have an easy answer for you. If those smoke alarms are wired into your house electric system, you can put ferrites around the power leads to them. If they're battery operated, there's not much you're going to be able to do. But most of them today are wired into the 110. They used to think that smoke alarms had to be battery operated in case the power went off when a house caught fire. But two things happen. One, people don't replace the batteries. And second, studies have shown that the smoke alarms go off before the house loses electricity in a large majority of the cases. So they now, I think, require them to be wired into the house. If you have a question about doing that, consult with an electrician. But if you pull the smoke detector down, there should be the wires going to it, and you can snap ferrite beads around those. Make sure that works. I would talk to an electrician. Okay, very good. My two top rails on the roof have withstood 2 years of Minnesota weather. Yes, there you go. Okay, they're guyed at the middle in hindsight. Yeah, you can guy them, well, anywhere that works for you. Also been playing with their DMR repeater. Good. Very good. That's very nice. Okay, so this next one is from H Apoel KD2SCP. I have an Anytone 868 HT, nice HT, thinking about buying a BTEC amp. Why? They've got quite a few watts out. They recommend one for UHF and a different one for VHF. There are amps out there that do both. You don't need more than 25 or 50 watts on VHF. If you have an outdoor antenna, you probably do fine with 10. What I would do, rather than spend the money on the amp, is spend the money on a mobile rig, like the 578, because that will put out quite a bit more power, and then you run that to an external antenna like a J-pole, and you'll get the same effect. Plus, then you'll have your HT for HT uses and your mobile in your shack. If you look right there is the 578. Okay, let's see. So that's what I would suggest rather than buying the amp. As to whether you want UHF or VHF, find an amp that does both if you need an amp. This is from Glen Marin N0QFT. He has a very exotic lightning protection system on the house, and the electricians have told him not to bond that lightning protection system to the electrical earth electrode from our power meter. And yes, I agree with that. The radio earth electrode, ground, is outside, and the distance to the utility is 90 to 100 feet. Soil is an acid clay, in northwestern Missouri. He's got all different kinds of surge protectors. I still go ahead and bond them. Run a number 6 bare copper wire from your station ground to the utility ground and bury it. Bury it a few inches in the soil because it kind of acts as a ground rod along the way. Keep it away, 6 feet away from any of that lightning stuff. Okay, and otherwise I would suggest consult a licensed electrician. This is from Ed K6SDW. Dave, I know RF flows on the outside of conductors, so why is it we need large wires like grounding straps for an RF station ground? Would it be okay to use a number 12 wire instead? I would recommend using the strap. If you feel the strap, look at the strap and look at how much surface area is on that strap. Like ground braid, I don't have any I can just grab. Ground braid has got a very rough surface because it's all this weaving of smaller wires. That creates a lot of surface area to conduct that RF electricity, and that's why it's used. Another option would be a copper strap. Really doesn't have to be terribly wide, and it's all surface area because it's a strap rather than a round one. Number 12 I would not recommend. It's just too thin. You're going to end up finding that thing will irradiate on you. I use a number 2 wire, and it's stranded. One of these days when I redo my ground system, I'm going to do strap, copper strap. This is from Anthony Becerra, and it's about the G90 review. I've got this G90 radio. This is the Xiegu, or however you pronounce it, HF SDR transceiver. MFJ loaned me one, and I've done an unboxing of it so far. I will be doing, intermixed with the extra updates, I will be doing a review on that. I also owe a review of the little radiodity radio. I got this in the mail from a ham today. This is pretty cool. It says social distancing. Keep one wavelength apart at 144 megahertz, because that's 2 meters or 6 feet. That is so cool. This came in the mail from, and let's see, KA7RRA. And I'm going to have to look that name up again so I can send him a thank you note. He has sent me a couple letters. When I get a letter from somebody, I usually reply with a letter. This has got something that got kind of sewed in there, but radio enthusiasts, social distancing, one wavelength apart on 2 meters. That's cute. That is really cool. Okay, let's see, El Paso, hello, I bet it's warm down there. Plumber's copper strap for mounting copper pipes is sold by Home Depot for $4.99 per roll of 10 feet. Okay. They can't hear you in a pile-up or scheduled QSO. Oh, I missed that thread. I'm sorry. If you read the grounding and bonding book, inductance is a critical factor for lightning protection. Keep that lightning protection kind of separate, because that's actually wired up, and you will get lightning strikes. You will get lightning strikes coming down through that. Let the lightning system deal with it, and don't have anything that touches your stuff inside. Okay, yeah, the G90. Let's see, I've heard that it is simple to hook up a signal link to the G90. He's saying that there is no internal sound card in there. Okay, I misinterpreted that. I thought there was. Okay, and I do have a signal link that I can hook up to that. I will need to get the connector for that, but I think we'll all be okay. Now, I mentioned that at 20 watts it was 70 dB down from 100 watts. That's a little over an S unit. And I think it almost makes this a feasible radio. I still recommend a 100-watt radio for your first radio. And the G90 is not inexpensive, but it is half the price, or less than, a little more than half the price of an ICOM 7300. I'd save the money and go for the 7300 for your first radio. Now, the Xiegu weighs 3-something pounds, so if you're going to use it for backpacking and the 3 pounds doesn't bother you, I do not believe it has a built-in battery. I've seen no evidence of that. The X5105 does have a built-in battery, but you could take along a little, like the lithium-ion phosphate battery. That would do. Okay. Yeah, or you could use a simple sound card, but you need some way to key it. And that's where a little signal link comes in. It develops a push-to-talk for the radio. Okay. Please run the Xiegu with your amplifier driving 20 watts. Be interesting to see what would come out of that. So, anyway, I've got a lot of tests, and I will test the power output of the Xiegu on the oscilloscope. Okay, this is from Filip DHulster ON7FD, and he says, still have a question. 5 fuse boxes in and around the house. Doesn't know whether the ground rods are bonded. With that complicated a situation, Philip, I'd get a licensed electrician in to look at it. They may let you do the work, but let them tell you what your local code requires for that. I mean, you want them bonded together, but sometimes those older systems don't do that. This next one is from William Noble. Do you still feel the yeasu 3000 is a better receiver than the ICOM 7300? I do. I think it's just slightly quieter. The yeasu 3000 uses basically the same receiver chain as their top-of-the-line 5000 with down conversion, and it's just a marvelous radio. Now, mind you, there's a lot of the super heterodyne to it. I should mention this, and I'll mention this in the review. They call this SDR. Okay? To me, the ICOM 7300, which does one stage of amplification and then direct to digital, and then does everything digitally after that, that's SDR. Now, you could argue that it's okay to do a couple down conversions before you go straight to digital. Well, the G90 does super het type techniques all the way down to IF, and I think they've only got about a 40 kilohertz IF. So yeah, you could call that SDR, but not in the same sense as the 7300. Made an 80 meter off center fed dipole. The direct coax connection to my analyzer shows it at 550 ohms. When I look up commercial made, they use 4-to-1 balance, I know. Do you think I should use 4-to-1 or 9-to-1? Boy, that's something you'd want to run through an analysis program to see what's going on there. You can try either balance, see how it works. Running vertical end fed, jury's still out on it, acts like a vertical, but you know, my 40 through 10 G5RV performed better and not as high. Keep the G5RV. And vertical end fed, okay. Is it a end fed half wave or just a regular vertical that needs radials? Okay. Love the temp humid barometer gauge behind it. Oh yeah, it's for show. It doesn't read accurately at all. I mean, the humidity's way off. And the barometer, who knows? but it is pretty. Ishmael writes in, that link will connect to an RSP1A for a nice waterfall. Yeah, I'll try that. Hello, Sean. I gave everyone my thanks to you earlier for all the work you did for me for ground school, W1SMM. And Sean, thank you very much. Thank you enormously, in fact. He went through, I counted them because I numbered them, 25 sessions with me over Skype, I think one was Zoom, to do ground school for the sport pilot. He said it was his thing to do during the pandemic because he professionally flies charter aircraft, and that field dried up for about 2 months, and that's the 2 months we did the ground school. Okay, Mamana works well for antenna analysis. There's also a 4NEC2 that's free. The one that I use is not free. I bought it some time ago, and the name will come back to me in a minute. 45 feet of copper wire vertical. Okay, it's end-fed at the bottom. You're going to have to tune that, and you're going to have to put radials in. Okay? Yeah, I did all the hard work I had to learn. No, I know from experience. I know from experience. Teaching is harder than learning. Okay. This is from Carl in Bath, Maine, Carl Webster. He is the one who created the little purple box for me that... and I asked him if he would create those for other people too. This is what he said. Making them for sale might not be correct because the files are downloaded from https://www.thingiverse.com, and you search for QRP-LABS, and there are lots of files posted there for free use. He just picked one and printed it. And there are more files up there for other things too. So that would be the source to get for this. And Carl, thank you very much for that. It is all mounted and in operation as seen in the video I put up yesterday. Okay. IQ, yes. Did I? Okay. Lots of radials, yes. For that vertical antenna, the thing about a vertical antenna is you're not going to be able to tune very well an untuned vertical. If you have just a piece of wire, it should be 33 feet approximately for 40 meters, half that for 20 meters, unless you put in the necessary traps and everything. If you could put a pick and end-fed half-wave dipole 40 through 10 and mount the wire up 60 feet bell at eye level to make it perfectly vertical. Yeah, I suppose you could do that. I'd run a half-wave dipole horizontally, though. I really would. This is from David Archer, and I think he's referring to Ask Dave number 1, where I do something with an antenna tuner. He says he has the same antenna tuner, which is a little MFJ unit. Sometimes when I tune my antenna, the antenna knob will be on 3, and the transmitter knob will be on 5 or 6. Yes, they are independent of each other. They do not have to be at the same numbers. If they were, you could just gang them together. Yeah. And I always tune the middle one, which is the inductance, for max noise, and then adjust the other two. And if you adjust one, you got to adjust the other a little bit. There's a sort of an iterative adjustment that you need to do there. Okay. Well, for the G90 to work digital, the cable that came with the radio to the head goes through to the DIN port on the back. Okay. Don, I don't quite understand that. Just got yeasu 818 all-band radio. Good. I think that's the QRP one, isn't it? Feed the vertical with ladder line and tune anywhere, no problem. Yeah, to some degree. To some degree. The classic... Well, I've done that with dipoles. I fed them with ladder line and a wide-range tuner and tuned them anywhere. Okay, this is from Scott KC9BNW. questions regarding the sending and receiving of QSL cards. I think I have a couple left here. This is a QSL card. This is mine. Okay, there are people who will print these for you. These are standard size, postcard size. And he wants to send self-addressed envelopes included. I'd put a stamp on it if I were you. Self-addressed stamped envelope. And I would just use a business size envelope to send the card and the return envelope. And if you fold one of these envelopes in 3, your self-addressed stamped envelope, that will fit in the envelope too. Now they do make business reply envelopes that are just slightly smaller than a standard business envelope, but I don't know where to get them. I've not seen any for sale. Okay, once you get the G90 with all the accessories, yeah, I know, there are accessories. There's even an amp. Go for the ICOM 7300. You get a bigger screen and everything, and much better waterfall. This is from KD8GIJ, Michael. He says he has a question on rig grounding. He had to replace his Kenwood TM-D710GA recently. The rig is going to be used now as part of my home station. Went to hook up the new one. Doesn't say what it is. I noticed I didn't have a ground screw anywhere. The radio that you're talking about, the TM-D710GA, is a VHF, UHF mobile. And they won't have separate grounds on them because they're considered to be mounted to a grounded position. So you can, if you want to put in a ground line, you can do that through one of the screws on the side or through the mounting or something like that. Generally, the mobile rigs don't come with a separate ground lug. I have to admit, I haven't grounded mine. So, this is from Nigel ZS6RN from South Africa. Let's see, he sent a lengthy one with a thank you and some things like that, and how he has been working with DMR, trying to find resources relating to DMR. There is actually a lot out there if you go looking for it. The DMRID.net or something like that, but you can find quite a bit out there about it. Yeah, given the huge number of talk groups listed worldwide, why am I having such a difficult time locating any? Just one would be acceptable that would cover the topic of HF DXing. They're usually, Nigel, they're usually more geographically oriented rather than topic oriented. Like, for example, there's a local, I think, Western Colorado group. There's a Colorado group. There's different U.S. groups. There are groups for all the different countries in Europe, and I'm sure there's one for South Africa. There's a huge number of talk groups, and 99% of the time there's nothing on them. So the thing that you have to do is find the popular ones. And the way to do that is probably to talk to members of your club or people that you know who do DMR and get suggestions for talk groups to join. The same will be true of the rooms in D-Star and so on. There are, like a lot of repeaters, you hardly ever hear anything on them, and other repeaters are very popular. Okay, let's see. 7,300 price includes the amp. Yeah, it's a 100-watt radio. Fair amount of C4 FM repeaters in our area. It is very kind of clumpy. Some group will do DMR, some group will do C4 FM, another group will do D-Star. And you just want to pick the one that works where your friends are. I'll tell you the truth. The advantage with the ladder line dipole is considerably less loss. Yes, it's much higher impedance line. And let's see, even at highest SWR balanced transmission line delivers more power to the antenna. There's a reason for that. The high impedance means high voltage, low current. And it's the current that causes the I2R losses. So in 50 ohm cable, which is lower impedance, you get higher current, higher I2R losses. Higher impedance, like 450 or even 600 ohm ladder line, the amount of current drops dramatically, and since the losses are the square of the current, they drop even more dramatically. So yeah, feeding your antennas with ladder line and so on can be a real saver, especially if you have high SWR. Audio and digital takes a bit for me to get used to. I don't like DMR audio, to tell you the truth. It's kind of, I call it sort of coarse and grainy. And I think they did that because they wanted to keep the bandwidth way down. I haven't heard it on D-Star yet. I've got D-Star radio in the other room. I need to do something with it. Okay. So Nigel, I don't know that they, it's not the dearth of material. It's just when you find your first good talk group, you'll start to find more. It's the old, it's like the old typing method, seek and ye shall find. Well, it's the same with talk groups. This is from David Sapadin N9DMS, and he's talking about ASTAVE number 7. It was several years ago, about solutions to difficult antenna situations. You talk about the one you once had, I think, mass-mounted single-mounted trap. I had a trapped multiband vertical. I did not have resonant radials. I had it ground-mounted. It was the butternut HF9V, which is a very expensive antenna. I think too expensive. They're still made. DX Engineering actually makes them. You can get them. They need lots of radials if they're ground-mounted. Had a dish strap there for years. The red line, how tall is the black line, how long it is. I'm not sure I understand those references. David, you might write in and send me a picture or something. And that one did come to Ham Radio Answers, so you can attach drawings to that if you would like. The next one is also from David regarding episode 5. He is has a built-in tuner-SWR meter, but wants to get a better box to do the job. Well, you can, certainly. The thing is to note that if you put an external SWR meter and then you use the internal tuner, you've got the tuner and SWR meter backwards. Because if you do that, the SWR just measures the antenna. Doesn't matter what the tuner does, you're still going to get the same from the antenna. You've got to get the SWR meter before the tuner, which it does in the radio. So, I'm dating myself, yes, I know. Okay, let's see. Coax versus ladder line is Ohm's law apply. Yes, it is. All various J-poles roughly the same, roughly. Yeah. Ed Fong has a nice one that's 3-band. Supposed to read in Dallas. We have D-Star, D-Martin Fusion. Yes. Yes. Oh, I see. It's the max headroom. Wonder about customizing characteristic impedance with some homebrew transmission line. There is actually a formula for the impedance of parallel wire transmission line. It depends on the separation and the diameter of the wire. So if you get thicker wire, it's going to have a different characteristic impedance than if it had thinner wire. And then the separation is important. Can you make your own ladder line? You bet you can. You've got to be mighty patient, but you can. The key thing is when you put the spacers in it, you've got to kind of keep them even. You can't have the thing doing this bit. Okay, good. C4 of FM is light years beyond. Oh my goodness. Okay. All right. Okay, very good. All right, so yeah, that's what you would want to do there. This next one is from Nancy Heinrich N4ZM. In the video, SWR Demystified, assay number 28. Okay, so I have a G5RV mounted as an inverted V, fine. With the center only 30 feet high, fine. Works well on 20 and okay on 40, but on 80, the SW is so high. You need a tuner for that between the amplifier and the radio. Okay, you have an antenna tuner, but that's after the amp. Well, that should bring the SWR down to 1-to-1. Then your amp will see a 1-to-1 SWR, and the amp shouldn't shut off. If it is, you've got RFI working its way back into the amp. So make sure that your amp and your tuner are carefully grounded to your station ground, and then try that again. The antenna is after the amp. That's where it should be. If the amp can't tune it, there should be an SWR meter in the tuner, and make sure that you tune with low power, tune with 20 watts or so, with the amplifier in standby, and then put the run the thing through. And when you turn that amp on, it should not change the SWR. If it does, you're getting RF feedback into the tuner or something. Okay. If I already have one, are there enough differences to try the others? Are they so similar? They won't be practically different. They really won't. If you're strictly using analog and listening to C4 FM, sometimes it did not recognize some fellow voices right away. Yeah, common mode choke. A common mode choke is a little harder on a ladder line. Now, if you're running ladder line from a tuner out, don't forget that any mismatches on that line will cause that line to radiate right into your shack. When I was using ladder line to feed big loop, I had to move the 4-to-1 ballon outside and feed it with coax to get it away from my equipment. We practice in Arizona, disconnected antenna power from radio. Yes, during thunderstorm season, leave your radio and antennas disconnected and only connect them when you're going to use them, and then disconnect them. When it's not thunderstorm season, you can just leave them connected pretty much. Okay. Next one's from Jeffery Mayer KJ5ALF. I have an antenna question. A new novice ham. He's got a call sign KJ5ALF with an extra class license. So he went 0 to extra in one sitting. Just received his first HF last week. It doesn't say what it is. Has a vertical 80 through 10 meter MFJ 1797 antenna. Hope to put up today or at least this week. Also got a 1778 dipole multiband antenna. I do not have a very big yard or house. Would it work putting this dipole up in coil fashion? No. But you can stretch it out and then drop the ends, if that will help you get room. Or zigzag it a little bit about the yard. Yeah, the coiling effect you talk about wouldn't work. I would go with, let's see what the MFJ 1797 is. I'm not sure. So we'll go to the screen and to MFJ, what was that, 1797. It's doesn't show. 1797. Okay, it's an HF compact vertical antenna, 7 to 28 megahertz, 7 band, 23 feet tall. Does it need radials? Ground mounting, roof mounting, super lightweight, and a whip on it. Okay. Super low profile without the whip. It doesn't say here whether it needs radials. Check the manual. It looks, I'm trying to determine from this picture here. Let's make this picture bigger. It's got some sort of a doodad down here and some matching things here. So I suspect this is a no radials antenna. So back to the normal view. I think your best bet's going to be that vertical. Okay, this one here is from Ernst WA3FAW, or Ernie, he calls. I'm not sure if you've already covered this, but I'm looking for any instructional video on how a voice signal is modulated onto an RF frequency. I don't care about what modulation is, but rather how exactly the voice voltage from the microphone is placed onto the carrier. Well, single sideband a little different, but because there you have to do balanced modulators and stuff. The easiest way to understand is that you've got a steady carrier, and I'll show you how this works on the overhead. Let's go to the overhead. Okay. And it works this way. Let's suppose this is the final amplifier. It's a tube. And you've got your signal coming in here from an oscillator. Okay, so let's say this is 3.7 megahertz. We'll put it on the 80 meter band. Okay, now what you do is this is your high voltage. Okay, and you've got a transformer here, and then this goes to the high voltage. Okay, now you get another amp to this point right here, and this goes down to some other source of high voltage. And this is your speech amp. Okay, now this is putting out a steady carrier like this. Okay, and this right here is putting out a modulated or a voice signal. Now note what happens here. When the voice signal rises, it draws current through here. So as this peak goes high, you get a higher high voltage. And when the peak goes low, you get a lower high voltage. Okay? This is called plate modulation. And what this does is when that voltage goes down, this amp doesn't amplify as much. So you get low out. When it goes high, you get a big signal out. Okay? And you end up with an amplitude modulated signal. And this mechanism is still used today. A lot of people who are doing HF use plate modulation. And that is plate modulation right there. Basically, you've got your speech amp fighting with the power supply for the carrier output. Now, obviously, if there's no speech, you just get a steady carrier output. But if there's speech, you start to get peaks and valleys on that carrier output. Now, the carrier output is a much, much, much higher frequency than the speech. And so you see the amplitude modulated signal, like you saw on a recent video that I did on amplitude modulation. So that is what's going on. And yes, I did recently do a video on amplitude modulation during the quarantine that showed an example of what the waveform looks like on the outside. So I hope that answers your question. That was from Ernst WA3FAW. That is an example of one of the ways of doing that. Now, the simplest method for single sideband is to take the resulting AM out and filter out the carrier and filter out the other sideband. And that is a standard technique. It does work. Now, more commonly, you'll use something called a balanced modulator, and the balanced modulator puts out the two sidebands but no carrier. So you're already rid of the carrier and you just have to filter out the other sideband. Digitally, they use a technique where they do a phase shift of 90 degrees on the modulated wave and recombine them. If they add them, they get upper sideband. If they subtract them, they get lower sideband. And then you amplify from there. So that's a real quick and dirty. Now, if you want to do FM, you just take that carrier oscillator and find the frequency determining thing there and vary the capacitance or vary the inductance with the speech signal, and that wiggles the frequency of the output, which has been done for 100 years now. Okay. What is common mode? Let's go back to the overhead. When you have balanced transmission line, when current flows this way on this one, it flows this way on this one. That's called balanced. And they vice versa. They do this kind of thing like this. Now, a common mode is when there is a signal that's coming down both at the same time. And that's common mode, and it's usually noise that does that. So you use a transformer or something like that. If you use a transformer like this, and you get a signal goes like this, and then it goes like this and like this. You have AC, the AC couples over. But if you've got a signal coming down on both lines, it's not going to go through the transformer or balun or whatever, and that's how you eliminate the common mode. Another way to do that, since the common mode is often RF, if you have a cable, you put ferrite beads around it. The common mode, the ferrite beads don't see the balance mode, but the common mode creates a back EMF in each of the beads. And by the time you get down to a number of them, your common mode has pretty much disappeared. This is called a common mode choke. So, hope that helps with common mode. Okay. Let's see. RFI, radio frequency interference. It's when the output radio that you want to go out the antenna turns around and comes back inside your radio. And it can cause unpredictable behavior in lots of things. Yes, that is a simple AM transmitter, but boy, you do see them that way. Okay, good. Let's see. What is the best radio to use for dyslexics? Well, I'll tell you what I do sometimes. If I'm having trouble, I just put my finger over the part that's confusing me and move my finger over a little bit. I get a little bit that way. MFJ website says the 7097 does not require grounds or radials and covers 7 bands. Okay, there you go. Seen the modulating transformers for WLW in Ohio. It was a 500 kilowatt AM station using exactly that method of modulation. And the transformers would fill rooms. They were huge. Okay. Armstrong invented FM, I think, actually in the 20s. And it might have been earlier than that. Okay. I believe the watched YouTube tour of the site. Yes. Oh, that was pretty fantastic. we have run out of time. We've spent an hour together, which has been a very, very enjoyable hour. Super Chat is still open. Please submit questions to go to ke0og.net/ask-dave and be sure to fill out all the fields. Don't leave fields empty. I think that's what's messing the thing up and why we get questions that don't come through. So if you don't want to put your email address in there, email is a required field, put something like joe@email.com, just so it thinks it's an email address. But recognize that if I want to get in touch with you directly, I won't be able to. Okay, so coming up Saturday, as far as I know, we will have a live stream Saturday at 1900 UTC, which is 1 p.m. Mountain Daylight Time. So that's noon on the West Coast, 3 p.m. In New York, and 2 p.m. in Chicago. By the way, this weekend is the IARU HF Championship. It's the International Amateur Radio Union Championship. That is a DX contest. Here is your chance to work some DX if you are a general or above. Get on the air, look up the details for the contest, and then it's IARU space HF Championship. Look that up, and it will tell you what you need to do. Great chance to work some DX. Thank you very much to Rob and for Bill for their super chats. Very, very much appreciated it. I think we topped out here at about 127 people, and we will talk to you again on Saturday. I may or may not get a video out tomorrow. We're going to start working on these extra updates and get those out as quickly as we can. So until we next meet, 73.